Been there many times. So it's no big deal. You just figure out what's needed and wanted, and you go do it. You know, people always kind of dump on, fast food industry. If I had to do it again, I'd go work for McDonald's. And the reason I go work for McDonald's, you know, whether it's $7 an hour or 15, I don't really care. I don't really like McDonald's food, but they have the best business systems in the world. You know, how else can a company take virtually non-college educated people and build a fast food industry across the world? And they have the best system. So right inside little McDonald's, you can learn everything you need to learn about business except for the management side of it. So I just go work at McDonald's so I can learn even more. So I look at life as learning. I'm constantly learning. You know, I'm reading constantly, studying constantly. I spend most of my time with entrepreneurs. I don't spend my time with people who complain about the economy, you know. So nothing will really change. I just go back to being an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs have one thing in common. They keep going. They'll change the rules. They'll reinvent the rules. You know, they don't just take one answer. So a real entrepreneur, it really makes no difference which country you're in. That's my belief. I
love that.
You know what I mean? It's just a mindset. You know, it's F you. You mess with me, I'll find a way around it. You know, I have a friend, he's multi-family rich guy from France. And, you know, France is as communistic as it gets.
75% top line for $1 million earners.
Yeah, but that's why he lives here. So he started buying vineyards in Napa and Sonoma. So he went back to the French government and he says, it's his wine. He says, I want to ship my wine in bulk to California. And the government says, you can't do that. So
what the French government saying you can't ship?
Yeah, and here's a guy, I think he's 5 generations, you know, French wine guy. This guy is an entrepreneur. He says, okay, I can't ship him in barrels. The guy goes, yeah. He says, okay, I'll ship him in bottles. So he bottled all of his stuff. It cost him more money, but he still figured out how to do it. Do you know what I mean? And now he has his wine with his California wine and all this. And so he went back to the French government and said, here, try this. See if it's not better. And so now they're all confused because he didn't break any rules. So I'll say it again. Entrepreneur is a mindset first, a skill set, and rules. And depending upon whether you're an employee or a small business, the rules are different. The mindsets are different. The skill sets are different. I am very shy. Very, very shy. You know, I came back from Vietnam and I could kill people, but I couldn't talk to people. And one day I said to when I decided to follow my rich dad's footsteps, I just said to him, I want to be an entrepreneur. He says, you got one problem. I said, what's that? I said, you're shy. I said, what's wrong with being shy? He says, you got to sell. You got to handle rejection. Number one skill. Can you handle rejection? Answer is no, I couldn't handle it. So I said, I still want to learn how to sell. So this was in 1973, I was 25 years old. And my rich dad said, how's your love life? I said, it sucks. He said, you getting laid? I said, no. He says, because you can't sell. Guys got it? So when I talk about what skill do you need, when the shit hits the fan, you better start selling. So I went to work for Xerox in 1974 so I could learn how to sell. It took me 4 years, and I was #1. Okay? And today I'm a best-selling author. You know, most PhDs tell me I can't write. Yes, I said I can't write, but I can sell. If you can't sell, you don't make money, period. End of statement. You know, just because you have a product doesn't mean jack shit. But the important thing is you start. You know, I don't care what product you start with, but you start. You know, I started off with nylon wallets. Success wiped me out. You know, we couldn't sell, and all of a sudden it took off. Then I couldn't finance because the sales kept going through the roof. Now, trouble is I kept borrowing and I couldn't sustain the sales. Next lesson. But that's how we learn. Okay? Yes, I'm one of those kids that don't like school. You know, school is good for people who like school. But here is my poor dad, head of education, PhD, on the governor's board of Hawaii and all this stuff, and his kid, me, and I'm flunking out of school because I can't read, I can't write. And I said I couldn't read, I couldn't write. I was bored out of my mind, you know. I was just, hey. So what I did instead was that's when I met my rich dad, who was my best friend's father, and he used these things called a game. See, games are the best teaching tools. See, when I'm playing this game, this is how the rich taught their kids battle strategy. It's called chess. My rich dad taught me to be a rich man playing Monopoly. We played Monopoly hour after hour after hour. You know, the formula for great wealth of Monopoly is 4 green houses, 1 red hotel. So today in Arizona, I own 8,000 green houses and several red hotels. I just play Monopoly for real. So that's the power of a game, because a game engages me mentally, physically, because I actually have to move things, emotionally, because when somebody knocks me out, I better wake up. You know, I made a mistake. And spiritually, because it's spirit that wins. Now, if you just saw Golden State play you know, everybody's, I mean, I love LeBron James, I love Cleveland, you know, but one guy cannot take on a team. And I think LeBron scored 60% of all the points in assists and all that, but a better team beat him. So when you look at business is the same thing. Business is a team sport. I have to have good accountants, good attorneys, good marketing guys, good tech guys, great staff. I have to have great leaders, you know. The trouble with most entrepreneurs are self-employed. So they quit their job. And, you know, in America today, the SBA, the Small Business Administration, says there's 28 million small business owners. 28 million. 24 million are classified as non-employers. Remember, they're a one-man team. You know, they'd be like this guy, say, okay, I'm going to take you on. Are you crazy? But that's what most entrepreneurs are trying to do. Because that's what they're taught to do in school, to be the rugged individual. You know, in school, I was very successful as long as I could cooperate at test time. But in school, cooperation at test time is called cheating. In the real world, the guys that have the biggest team win. So all I focus on is putting the best team together. Meanwhile, a lot of time the A students in school, the doctors and lawyers, they're sitting there all by themselves. They're sitting ducks, but they're entrepreneurs. Do you know what I mean? It's just a mindset, tactics, strategy. I went to military school. I'm a former Marine. So I think like a military operation, which I love chess. So most entrepreneurs, you know, they have this job and they go, okay, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. And this guy's just massacring.
That's very good.
Because they went to school, they learned to get a job, and they take tests on their own. They have to be the smartest. That's like the LeBron James. I don't want to be the smartest guy in my team, but I want to have the best team. And that's why I win most of my games.
That's great.
I think like this, and the doctors think like this. I'm going, yeah, I got you, man. For some reason, I get the sense I'm going to win.
That's right.
So the other thing with when people say live below your means, you don't like to live below your means, do you?
No.
No. And I think when you say to somebody live below your means, you wipe their spirit out. It's like saying somebody, if you want to lose weight, go on a starvation diet. It doesn't make you healthier to starve yourself. So I would rather get financially educated. That's why I read your books, because this is my greatest asset. I want to feed my brain so that I can expand my means without getting into excessive debt or where I start to lose. Because debt, like I say, is a two-edged sword. But telling somebody to live below your means is almost inhumane. I never felt good doing it. I wanted to strive to do better every day. I want to do better every day. I liked a good life. Like I tell the story of taxiing underneath your jet. You know, I was in my jet, but it was a little Learjet. And I look up and there's a 727, and I taxi under it. I said, "Holy mackerel!" You know, it's big boys and their toys, but nonetheless, it inspired me. I said, "Okay, I'm in a Learjet now. It's time to step up." And it doesn't mean the jet will make me happier. What makes me happier is the wanting to get better, to get smarter, to do better.
If you did not have the rich dad in your life, what would you be doing today?
It's hard to say if I didn't have my rich dad, because as a young kid, starting at probably about the age of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, I really wanted to be rich. So I think number one is desire, you know, and then you naturally seek your role models and teachers. And in my lifetime, I've had multiple rich dads. You know, my rich dad was my best friend's father starting at the age of 9. And then today, I still seek mentors and wise men and wise women, because that's how you get wiser, is by hanging out with smart people.
Everyone says finding good real estate is hard when you're getting started. What's the value of good network and good partnerships?
Well, I'll say it again. In 1973, I came back from Vietnam, and I was a pilot out there. And I took a real estate course. It was $385, 3 days long. And that was a lot of money back then. I was only making $500 a month, so $385 was all I had. And the instructor at the end of the program said to me, he said, or to the whole class of about 30 of us, he says, "Your education begins now that you leave the class. You didn't get educated while the class." So his assignment was that everybody, or 30 of us, we had to pair up in team, get up in teams, two or three at a team, and we had to look at 100 properties in 90 days. And he says, don't buy anything, just look at 100 properties, do your evaluation of each property, write a short blurb about it, why it's good, why it's bad. And he said, at the end of 90 days and 100 properties, then you make up your mind if you're going to buy something. He says, if you haven't found one property in 100 deals, you start again. You know, you start again with another 100. And that's why most people are not rich, is they're not willing to go through that process of looking at 100 deals to find one deal. And there's sometimes, and you and I know, you look at a lot of frogs to find one princess. You know, but when you find that one princess, everybody goes, oh, well, how do you get so lucky? Well, I looked at a lot of dirt dogs out there, you know? Mm-hmm. And that's like anything in life. You don't marry the first man or woman you meet. Hopefully you kiss a couple of them, you know, before you do.
My last paycheck, I still remember it clearly. It was one of the worst and the best days of my life. And I was in Puerto Rico. I was working for Xerox.
Man, that was some great nuggets. So sorry for the technical difficulties. Good looking out, Susie and Meyer, for bringing it through. We're going to get into some top takeaways. You want to go first? You ready? Roxy is ready. Let's get it.
What's up, guys? Happy Monday. So for me, some of my favorite things, I love when he was talking about entrepreneurship is a mindset. He said with that, like, it's a mindset first, and then after that, you learn the skill sets and you learn your roles. Like, the biggest thing that I've learned from being an entrepreneur and just going for it are all of those things, because like nobody's born an entrepreneur. We go to school and we're taught like how to be workers. And so like at some point in time, you're like, hey, like this is what I want to do. Like a 9 to 5 isn't for me. A job isn't for me. And so there's a minute where you decide where you're like, this is what I'm going to do. And inside of being an entrepreneur, there's going to be a lot of different things that you're going to have to learn through and grow through. So that was number one. And I love let me see. The other one that I really liked was, he said, you can't be shy. And that's another like thing. Like, for instance, like sometimes we'll be working with people who are like, well, I'm shy. Well, it's just like, you have to be willing to step over that and get over the I'm shy. And you really have to be okay with dealing with, what was that word, how you said? Objections. So you have to learn how to deal with objections, because if you are the type of person who's just like, oh, they told me no. Like, what am I going to do? They told me, like, you can't have that. Like, you just can't. Like, you got to put your big girl, your big boy panties on. And you just have to be okay with going through objections. Why? Because that's what it's going to take in order for you to get to your next level, if you want to get to your next level in being an entrepreneur. And whatever that is for you, maybe you don't do Herbalife, maybe you're pursuing something else, but for us, we do Herbalife. So it's like, we have to be willing to get over the no's. We have to be willing to learn the skill sets. We have to be willing to put on different hats every single day in order to keep on growing and to keep evolving and growing our business. So yeah.
Love it. Some of my biggest takeaways are number one, cooperation in school is cheating, but cooperation in real life is success. And it really made sense when he made the kind of like the comparison to LeBron James versus a team. So one of the things that we learned in school was to be the rugged individual. You know, I went through a lot of schooling. You know, I was always like, you got to figure it out on your own. You got to go to these books. And then at this certain amount of time, you're not going to have access to anything. You got to remember all this stuff. Well, you got to think, how applicable is that to your everyday life now? So knowing that that's probably not that applicable to your life, you got to reprogram yourself for what is success in the real world, because you got to understand grades and income and wealth don't always correlate. Meaning they don't always go together. It's not like just because you get A's and B's, you're going to be well off, have the lifestyle you want or the income you want. So if that's not always the same, think about it. In your life, have you ever seen somebody you were like, man, they weren't even doing anything in school, but then you see the lifestyle they're living? You're like, what the heck? How'd they do that? Because the rules changed. And not many people realize that. Many people don't realize that school is a man-made ecosystem. It's like artificial life. Like we weren't born with school as our way to survive. You know, commerce, the marketplace, business is really where we came from. That's how cities evolved. Then you had the markets, and then you had the trading and the bartering. Then it turned into money and coins. And now you have electric money and all these things through credit systems. That's how we evolved. School was something that we put in place to try to prepare people for that, but honestly to prepare them to work in it, not be owners in it. So you got to realize your schooling probably hasn't given you everything that you want to get to the freedom that you want. That's one of the first realizations you have to understand. Did schooling give you the tools you want for the freedom you want, or did it give you the tools to be the employee? Ask yourself. Once you answer that question, you can say, you know what? I probably wasn't schooled, educated, or been thinking about how to be successful in the actual world. I've been thinking about how to be successful on a certificate or a graduate degree or a piece of paper on the wall. And now that you know that, what are some things that he talked about helping us inside of the real business world? Number one, being a team player. I really love what he said. He said, I don't want to be the smartest on the team. I want to have the best team. In Herbalife, a lot of us are Herbalife distributors or clients. As distributors, we want to have the best team. I had a mentor session. Remember, he said, seek out mentors. So I saw, always seek out mentors. That's something personally I want to do even more. You got to, who are you? I'm going to ask you to write this down, this question. Who are you learning from? Write that down on your paper. If you don't have a notebook, that's the first thing to realize. Why don't you have a notebook? On your notebook, who am I learning from? Like some people, like I said in the past, they're learning from Beyonce, they're learning from Cardi B, and they're learning from, Lil Wayne, if you still listen to Lil Wayne. I don't know who you're learning from, but you learn from outside to inside, because everything we do now is learn. Remember, when we were born, all we were scared of falling and loud noises. That's it. Everything else was learned. Our language, how to walk, even being scared of the dark, any cultural things, all learned. So, who did you learn from? The people around you, the music you listened to, the movies you watched, the stories you heard. Now, think about it. How many of those people did you intentionally say, what do I want out of life? Who's got it? How can I learn from them? How many times have you done that? Because let me give you a hint. School didn't teach you to do that. School never gave you a mentor. So now that you know that, who are you learning from? Because if you're learning from the right people, they're going to teach you things like, I had a mentor session last week. Roxy and I were here listening. Somebody that's been in Herbalife over 20 years. He said something that went along right with this. He said, you don't want to be the king or queen. You want to be the king or queen maker. I was like, you're right. You don't want to be the best on the team. You want to have the best team. So that takes a different level of awareness. That takes a different level of understanding. That takes a different level of skills, because you have to be able to help people with a lot of skills, not just one skill. And it takes this, you guys. I'm listening to this book. I definitely recommend it. Ego is the enemy. It takes dropping your ego. Dropping that I've got to be the best. Dropping that it's got to be all on me. Dropping that it's got to be me that shines. Because if it's got to be you that shines, you're going to be a renegade, rugged individual, like you called it. And no matter how good you are, you're not going to beat a team. So how are you decreasing your ego and focusing on building a better team rather than a better individual alone? That was like my biggest takeaway. I don't want to be the smartest on the team. I want the best team. That was powerful. Let's get a few takeaways. Give me a thumbs up or a smile if you're excited to share a takeaway. I'm going to look for some smiling faces. Let's get Steph back from her first STS in Chicago. Let's get it. Give us a takeaway from Triple M today.
Okay, my favorite one was where he talked about your education and how it doesn't begin during that class time. It begins after the class, and how you use the information in your everyday life. So, for instance, like our webinars that we're doing and everything, you know, we're learning so much. We're learning how to be positive and how to help others, but it doesn't start until we actually put and implicate those plans. So that was my biggest takeaway.
I love it. Absolutely. Like, this is the seed, and then the actual growth is outside of here. I love it. That was really powerful. I love that. Let's get another takeaway. Give me a thumbs up or a smile if you're excited to share. I'm looking for some smiling faces. I don't want to get anybody that's driving, so you are safe on the road. Let's get Myra. What's your biggest takeaway, Myra?
One of my biggest takeaways, the one you touched on, was just like, you know, being a team player. Like, it's better, like how you said, yeah, like how you mentioned the whole queen or king. Like, it's all about, you know, developing others to be that, you know, and then just being a team player. It takes a whole team to contribute to the big masterpiece. So just learning how to, you know, play in a team.
Nice. Playing the team game for the overall win. I love it. And then we got one more from Christina. Not the material, she put it in the chat bar, not the materials that make you better. It's the desire to do better and be better that makes you stronger and reach your goals. Love it. All right, you guys. One thing I'm going to leave you with. The first thing he said entrepreneur is a mindset because you figure it out. You figure it out. What happened when we first got on here? The internet wasn't working, right? Like, imagine you start a webinar and you invited all these people and the internet doesn't work. What are you going to say? Oh, that's it. Sorry, we tried. Figure it out. Jump on the phone. Ask somebody to plug in their thing. Just talk about a message. You just got to figure it out. The minute our business and life changed is when our coaches and mentors said, I know it's difficult. I know it's hard. The secret is figuring it out. And I was like, you're right. Figure it out. Whatever your goal is this week. Like, what's your goal for this week? Do you know what you're going for this week? Do you know what you want to create from this week? Once you know that clear vision, decide, figure it out. Because you know how to do it if you want it bad enough. Think back to when you were a kid and you wanted that thing so bad. How many ways did you try to get it until you figured it out? Don't lose that. Most of us get it beaten out of us by our mom and dad, not beaten it but said no so many times that we lose that. Don't lose it. That's one of your biggest gifts, persistence and figuring it out. That's it, you guys. Let's have a great Monday, great week. You guys, we got 10 days left in what is this? May? Massive May? You guys, we're almost halfway through 2018, y'all. Let's go. I'm going to take everybody on mute. Let's get some energy. Where you at? Let's go.
Yeah. Go, guys.
Let's get it.
Yeah.
I'm about to go in. Let's get it. Y'all. Happy Monday.